Hello, this is Anne with Lavender Kisses, and today we are going to talk about healing through the second stage of emotional abuse recovery. If you're new here, this channel, I talk about different obstacles and challenges you might face while you're recovering from CPTSD, emotional abuse, neglect, or how to deal and navigate with difficult relationships, including narcissistic relationships. Now, I'm not a mental health professional. I am a master's student right now for mental health counseling, but most of my experiences come through my own personal journey and what I noticed when I went through my own healing from emotional abuse and codependency and dealing with tricky relationships. So I took some notes, so don't fire me for cheating. But this is just a real important topic, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. Just a real quick recap. I went through what I consider 3 distinct phases. So phase 1 was when I was learning how to resonate again with myself and learn my own personal inner chord of who I was, my emotions, how I felt, what I liked, my dislikes, and where my personal boundaries were. That's what I consider phase 1. Phase 3, once we get through phase 2, is where I really had gained proficiency with the tools that I'm going to discuss in phase 2. And I really was able to fly on my own and begin to carve out the path that I want for my life and get through the obstacles without them setting me back for days, weeks, months, and just continue forward. So phase 2, which is kind of the school type, that I consider it like school time, right? There's a lot of learning that I noticed that I went through. This is how I liken it. Phase 1, you're dipping your toes in the water. Phase 2 is where you learn the backstroke, you learn the brushstroke, you kind of know freestyle, but you also learn how to float when you need to and just doggy paddle. Once that's down, then you're going to transition to phase 3. Also during this video, I want to talk about 2 specific tools that you're going to be using during phase 2, and you're going to use them over and over and over again and get really become a master with these tools, which are going to make phase 3 a breeze. And then also I want to talk about another superpower that you're going to gain through phase 2 that you will notice that you're just going to have in your back pocket whenever you need it. And I love it. It's like I have this little secret super ninja power now that I can just pull out whenever I need it. And then also I want to talk about pitfalls that show you that you've gotten off the road a bit and just, it's time to reroute. So let's get into it. Emotional abuse recovery. You started to get some traction on who you are. You've got an inner sense of resonance. You're not basing everything based off the outside of what so-and-so likes or what they need or what will make them happy. I know this was just an automatic thing I was doing at all times. I didn't really figure myself in, and I didn't really care about that either, except where I had this pesky eating disorder that I could never get rid of, and I had this pesky chronic fatigue that would not go away, and I just was masking and covering emotions of deep depression all the time. And once I began learning that inner resonance and started following it, it led me onto the path of recovery. Now, you've got your feet wet, you've got a sense of who you are, and something that's very critical is, if you haven't already, get your support system in place. You will have times, especially during phase 2, you're not going to make it through phase 2. I'm just going to be honest with you here and blunt. You won't make it through phase 2 without having some support people at times. You don't have to have a therapist necessarily. You don't have to have, anybody special that's specially trained. You do have to have someone that cares about you and is on your side and believes your story and can reply fairly quickly. Now, when I was going through this phase, I began the process of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a process of allowing myself to sit and feel painful emotions longer. Building up a tolerance, that's the word I'm looking for. I was building up my tolerance for painful emotions. I realized later on in the journey that for me, it was very difficult to sit in painful emotions because, yes, it would start a shame spiral, like I shouldn't feel this way, blah, blah, blah. But I had already started to heal that. But it was still very painful to sit in those painful emotions because, one, or two, I hadn't done it. I would go numb myself when that would happen right away before in the past. And so it was new, like when a kid gets a bee sting, right? I remember getting a bee sting when I think I was in second grade, and I really thought I was going to die from the pain. Like that was it. I was done. I was over. I was a goner. And then as an adult, I got stung, and I just was like, was that it? Is that really it? Because during that time I'd experienced so many other things that created pain, and you make it through. So with the painful emotions that would come up, I began to build up my tolerance to feel them. In order to do so, I would need to reach out to people at different times. There was a really great support group, and they still exist. I'm going to link them down below. I went through his programs, Marshall Bircher, and he has a really great support group on Facebook where you can just reach out to people, and they see you, they hear you, and that's all you need in that moment to make it through. Okay, that's not entirely true. That's not all you need in the moment, but that is a key piece to it. The other piece to it, when you begin to allow yourself to tolerate more time and sitting in more time in painful emotions, is a process that I did get from Marshall, and I'm sure he got from somewhere else, called ALI. So you acknowledge the emotion, you legitimize it, and then it integrates. You really don't have to do anything to make it integrate, it just does. So we started to do this in phase 1, mostly with shame. You might have had other unhealthy thoughts and unhealthy ways of denying yourself come up during phase 1, and we started that acknowledgement then. I'm going to give you an example with this one. So I had this really, really deep sense of not being wanted, this feeling. I mean, I could have the thoughts all day and just, push them away, or like, oh, that's silly, or blah, blah, blah. But the feeling would come up. And as you're going through this process, these feelings are going to come up. I'm not sure what your exact ones are, but they're going to start to come up more. Now, I also earlier had the feeling of feeling unloved, and that had begun to come up. And I could do things to go, okay, I hear you feeling, but I am still going to act as though I love myself, even if I don't feel like it. So for instance, I don't really feel like making myself a meal tonight, nothing, like I'm just gonna take some, a handful of cereal and some coffee and just call it a night. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm still gonna treat myself in a loving way by feeding myself a nourishing meal, even if I don't feel like it. So I could do that with love. And you do that over and over again, and it starts to rewire those thoughts and the feelings. But for feeling unwanted, I was like, how do I show myself that I'm wanted? I mean, nothing. I'm like, okay. Just this deep sense of feeling unwanted would come up. And as these emotions come up, it really doesn't matter why you feel that way. It's enough that you do. This is about processing it so you can keep going and learn the tools you need to get through phase 2 so you can build your life the way you want to. Not in a way for survival, but in the way for thriving and growing and experiencing life. Okay, So this feeling of deep, deep unwanted would come up. So I would use the ALI method. I acknowledge it. I wouldn't stuff it down. I wouldn't try to think about it a different way. Of course I wanted, look at this, look at that. No, 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 no. You have to just feel it and really feel it. Give yourself time, find a time and space to sit with it. And so thoughts would come up about feeling unwanted and why and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it got dark for a minute. But then I went on to the next part of it, which is legitimize it. Like, of course you feel unwanted. You can, and it doesn't even have to go back to what the root is. You can legitimize it based off of what's going on today in your world. You don't have to go back through and sift through every single memory in order to heal. You can heal where you are right now. So I could just find ways that I felt unwanted, you know, in that moment. Yes, of course you feel unwanted. You're going through some hard things and, you know, your parents don't want anything to do with you, or they're not supporting you, or, you know, my spouse wasn't supporting me, or, you know, all these different people in my life weren't supporting me. And I felt, so I could say, okay, that's enough. Of course you feel unwanted. And then once the feeling subsided, I had this sense within me of feeling held, supported. It wasn't coming from anybody around me. It wasn't coming from anything I was doing. It was a sense of feeling supported. Now, I don't want to say that was the only time I ever felt that feeling. I have felt that feeling since then and in moments, but nothing like I did that at that particular day, in that particular time. Once I processed it, ever since then, there is just a sense of being held within me. So that is a really important tool. The ALI is going to be a very important tool you're going to want through phase 2 as these emotions, these tough emotions start to come up. Now, that was like a bonus tool. The 2 other tools that I want you to learn and to just start to think about as you're going through this are in the realm of reparenting. So what was helpful for me was the nurturing side, the mothering side of reparenting, of being kind to myself, learning how to self-soothe for myself, taking time to rest, allowing those moments, and then also the father side of reparenting, the boundary side. That's, you know, this is the set schedule that I follow so that I have the most productive, healthy, nourishing day. These are the foods that I eat to feel best about myself. I also had to do the father side in order for me to reparent. So growing up, you know, usually you can see different dynamics, right, in your past that created you to struggle in the areas that you struggle. So I am being vague on purpose. I can get into more details later, but I am being vague on purpose. My point, though, is that in order for me to reparent myself in the masculine sense, the father, the boundaries sense is what I mean by that, is I had to address my abhorrence for it. I didn't want boundaries. I didn't want, because I didn't trust them. There was a deep sense of not trusting the masculine side of reparenting, and I had to take a minute and I had to meditate and journal so that I could trust again the masculine side of reparenting. And then the really awesome thing is that you get to tap into your own masculine side to create your boundaries yourself for you that are best for you from within. You don't have to rely on an unreliable masculine anymore. You now get to tap into that within yourself to create the best boundaries for yourself. And I did that through journaling. And it's really great to have a sense of completeness within yourself. Okay, the extra ninja tip that you're going to get through this, which just makes me happy because it just feels really great to have this in my corner. Part of phase 2 and learning how to process these tough emotions is you will experience pushback. It's almost like at times for me, like I was in the middle, the eye of the tornado, where I could tap into the peace and tap into truth for myself. And that is what held me, is that sense of peace within myself and truth and honoring that, while everyone around me is kind of spinning and going crazy because I'm not the person that they know anymore. I'm honoring myself, I'm sticking to my boundaries, and that's that. In order to do that, you are going to create in yourself an inner warrior. This is the person that goes to bat for you, that protects you, that stands up for you. It doesn't have to be in a malicious way, but it is in a that's final way. That skill and that side of yourself that you develop never goes away once you have it. And it brings me so much comfort and peace to know I am protected now. I have someone in my corner. And you know what? Me wanting to stand up for myself is enough. I don't need anybody else around me to support me in order for me to believe in myself and to protect myself and to go after what my dreams are now. Going through using these tools over and over and over again, the reparenting tools, the nurturing, the fathering, the boundaries, creating that inner warrior that will go to bat for you when you need it at a dime. Once it's there, it's there. She or he is always in your back pocket. And it just makes me happy knowing she's there. You know, she's got a little battle cry in the back of my head half the time. And then that inner sense of peace within yourself. It's going to get stronger and stronger. And then you kind of become unstoppable in a way. Challenges are still going to come our way, right? That's part of life. But I no longer need certain people to believe in me. I no longer need someone else to care about me. I now literally feel like I am enough for me. And one last thing I just have to add, which like literally makes me want to cry thinking about it, is that when I started this many years ago, this healing journey, my fight was for my kids, okay? They need a mom that can be present for them and fully be her. They deserve that. I want that for them. And so I fought tooth and nail, for decades to finally get to this spot where I'm at the top of the mountain and I can look out and see now. And I remember the day when it hit me and I got up. I remember I woke up and I got out of bed and I went, you know what? I don't have to do it just for them anymore. I want to do it for me. And I was driving my teenager somewhere that day and we were stopped at a red light and we were talking about something and I said something like, yeah, that's why it's really important for mommy to be a good example because I want to be a good mom for you. And she just on her own, that's the most we had talked about it, goes, yeah, but I want to be good for me. I don't need to be good for anybody else. Like, I want to be my best and be awesome for me. And you guys, like, that literally made me cry in that moment because I was like, yes, that is exactly it. And that is why I did this. And that is why you are going to make it through too, because you are worth it. So thank you for watching. I will get to phase 3 on the next video. And until next time, take great care.